Well, hello again. It's Sunday, the 14th of September 2025. If you can hear some water running in the background, it's the gutter overflow. It's spring here in Australia, but we do get some heavy showers through spring. That's why I'm not outside today. It's been raining quite heavily, and rain showers keep going through, so rather than have the water dripping down onto the pages and then off the bottom of the page onto the table as I did last week, I thought I'll just do it inside. just a tad easier. Well, as predicted, the last week's hearing on the 9th was completely and utter waste of time and money. US taxpayer money down the drain. The witnesses were a complete and utter waste of time. Anyway, so before I get to that, apparently something happened to David Grusch on his way to a skiff, so he could spill the beans. He could tell Luna all about it, even though he's told everybody everybody on every social media platform he can get hold of all over the world that this is all happening, but he knows this because he's been told, not because of any first-hand experience. So apparently he couldn't spill the beans, even though it's only stuff he's been told, because someone waved a gun at him on the way to the skiff. Hey, you Grusch, pull it over, Grusch. That's what he says, anyway. I'd love to tell you everything, but someone brandished a gun at me on my way here. This is like the free energy nuts, they're always, are the bullets going to be coming through the window? It's drivel nonsense. It's rubbish, So, and I promise I'll try not to say very much. It just seems obvious to me, so there is nothing to this. Every excuse under the sun as to why any information can't be given in a skiff. They don't need a skiff to talk to Arrow. How many times do I have to say that? So, yeah, you can't talk about it. What was it? Yeah, hang on a second. I should have read this first. So when he was on his way to Luna's skiff, he was so frightened by this that he wouldn't give Luna and Burlison all the details he promised them. FFS. This is because someone brandished a gun at him. Probably a water pistol if it happened at all. And apparently Elizondo knows all about this. He knows all about this attack, this brandishing. But of course he can't talk about it. That makes a change, doesn't it? Elizondo not being able to talk about something. Who would have picked that? Apart from everybody on the face of the earth with an IQ bigger than their shoe size. Elizondo. Oh yeah, I saw Elizondo being interviewed. Now I haven't got much time for Elizondo, so I sort of looked at it and then 30 seconds of it. But I think what I actually saw, it looked to me like he had white hair. I got the impression, even if he didn't have white hair, I got the impression that he looked 10 years older. So I don't know whether he's he's tossing and turning at night, wondering what he can come up with if he's dragged into a skiff if he gets subpoenaed, or whether or not he thinks that the bombshells bar and grill chain are going to be chasing after him. I don't know, but he doesn't look happy. He looks 10 years older at least. Lou Elizondo. Yes, of course, Elizondo can't talk about it because it's all bullshit, just like everything else he says he can't talk about. He can't give any details that could be checked. He knows that. As soon as they're checked by anyone in a position to check them, he's going to be revealed to be a bullshitter. So it's going to be found out to be bullshit very quickly, and Elizondo's credibility's in the toilet anyway. with his chandelier pictures, you know, and his crop irrigation circle pictures. I think there was one or two other things as well, but I haven't noted those. There was a guy called Nuttacelli. Sorry if I got that wrong. Tells us a huge glowing sphere. This is also the guy that told us about the big red rectangle, and that there were 4 or 5 other guys that saw this big red rectangle over an Air Force base, and they wrote out testimonies. Can you imagine doing that for one of your colleagues? You know, can you write me a testimony? Oh, shit, sure, no problem, yeah. As soon as I get back from the pub. So they wrote out their testimonies and gave them to Mr. Nuttacelli, and he lost them. How peculiar is that? Good heavens. Well, at least the dog didn't eat them. Anyway, Mr. Nuttacelli tells us a huge glowing sphere hovered over his house. Now, I don't think that's particularly abnormal. I mean, I live in Australia. I mean, huge glowing yellow sphere appears to hover over my house every day of the week. It's called the sun. So, complete waste of time, Mr. Nuttacelli. You know, as predicted, you know, I said last week, I might just as well replay the video I did last week for this week, because it's going to be a load of rubbish. The witnesses are going to be no such thing. The first-hand witnesses are going to be no such thing, I should say. It's just drivel. Chief Wiggins presented a video similar to the ones we saw in 2017. Infrared, you know. There's zero evidence of any extraterrestrial, a link to extraterrestrials. This was a waste of time, really. It's just UAPs. And I've said before, UAPs, separate UAPs from ETs. What we're interested in is are extraterrestrials coming to this planet, visiting the planet and crashing here, or crashing here. You know, we're not interested in UAPs. There's so many things that can fall into the UAP category, you know. That you want to get UAPs out of the equation entirely. We're only interested in people that are saying they're working on recovered alien spacecraft, you know, recovered alien bodies, biology, you know. We're not interested in. Someone told me about, you know, they saw this red square flying in the air. You know, I mean, it's drivel, isn't it? It's a waste of everybody's time and money. Someone coming forward saying, look, you know, I've been working on this spacecraft. It was made of materials I've never seen before. You know, I've got a sample of it that you can have, and you can send it to some reputable universities for analysis. You know, that's different. That's worth hearing. That's worth seeing. And certainly the results, peer-reviewed results, would be worth looking at. But, you know, I saw something in the sky, you know, it's rubbish. It's the sort of rubbish we've been hearing since Roswell, you know. Now, George Knapp. So, Chief Wiggins, I think, waste of time. All of them are a waste of time. I said it before, you know. I said it last week. I guarantee they're going to be a waste of time. George Knapp focused on ORSAP and Bigelow's bass. You know, where Bigelow was given $22 million of taxpayers' money to investigate werewolves running around Skinwalker Ranch, a ranch that he owned at the time. I wish I had the business acumen of Mr. Bigelow. Which Bigelow owned at the time. Knapp referenced Senator Harry Reid. Now, Harry Reid, when the Pentagon found out that the $22 million was being paid to Bass to chase werewolves around Skinwalker Ranch, they pulled the funding. This is ridiculous. Harry Reid went on to say that after the initial hearing, you know, when they were saying they don't know what these things are that are buzzing the American warships, this is after the 2017 videos were released. Harry Reid said they know that the UAPs buzzing US warships are Russian. I'll leave a link below to an article from the Independent newspaper where Senator Harry Reid, unfortunately he's dead now, so he can't argue with these guys. They bandy his name around and they give the impression that Harry Reid was a believer that the planet's being visited by extraterrestrials, but that's not the case. Harry Reid says it's Vlad. You know, they know that the UAPs buzzing American warships are Russian. And I'll leave a link to that article in the Independent newspaper below so you can read it for yourself. This is the UAP, the ETs coming here and crashing here, fanboys bending the facts as they always do. You know, they always try and introduce a little bit of intrigue, you know, where there is none. So I'll leave a link to that article below. You can read it yourself. Senator Harry Reid, it's Vlad, from the Independent newspaper. Now, there was a guy called Borland who squirmed and wriggled. Can't read my writing here. I should type this really, shouldn't I? Who squirmed and wriggled after telling a story about a huge equilateral triangle taking off from an Air Force base. Equilateral triangle, all sides are equal. So, what did he get a stepladder out and measure it, did he? So, now Representative Mace asked him if anyone else saw it. He replied, not to his knowledge, as it was 1:30 a.m. and only the night shift were about. Mace let that go. She didn't ask if any other members of the night shift saw this triangle. I mean, Air Force Base, 1:30 in the morning. I've never been on an Air Force Base at 1:30 in the morning, but surely there's more than one person out and about. Huge equilateral triangle is going to be noticed by something. Radar, closed circuit television, other people, you know. I mean, isn't the Air Force a 24-hour operation? I mean, don't attack us after midnight, because the Air Force is in bed. You know, they're not going to be up and about again until about 6:30. You know, that sounds really likely, doesn't it? Now, Borland has told his story to Arrow and is not happy with their response. I think he told his story to Arrow back in 2023 when Sean Kirkpatrick was there, and Arrow dismissed it as science fiction rubbish. Or maybe low information zone. I saw a big triangle, you know, I saw a huge plastic bucket flying around in the sky. You know, it's just a story, isn't it? You know, there's nothing you can do with that. You cannot analyse that story. There's no evidence to support that story. There's certainly zero tangible evidence to link it with extraterrestrials. Borland is unhappy at that. And he says he's unemployable now, so he's super upset that Arrow said his story is either low information zone or is science fiction rubbish, because now he can't make any money out of the UAP is coming here, ETs are coming here and crashing here, bullshit business. You know, he can't go and give talks, you know, and he can't do anything else with it because it's been dropped in the bin by Arrow, and Mr. Borland really doesn't like that. Mr. Borland said, this is really quite funny. The only way to prove something is extraterrestrial is to go to their planet and get some samples for comparison. Mr. Borland is, of course, completely clueless. No wonder he's unemployable. Oh dear. Yeah, so I mean, he never got any samples of his equilateral triangle for comparison anyway, did he, as far as I know? So what would be the point, even if we could go to the aliens planet and get a sample of another one? You know, he didn't get any samples of this equilateral triangle. It's a story, he saw it. You know, oh wow, Mr. Borland. So, you know, this is complete nonsense, of course. You know, he's saying Arrow has to reject his story as being ET related because they can't compare they can't compare any ET samples to the samples he doesn't have. I don't think I'd be employing Mr. Borland either, to be perfectly honest. He doesn't sound like the sharpest tool in this shed to me. Okay, so yeah, of course you don't need to go to an extraterrestrial planet and get a sample of their technology. You know, if an alien spacecraft really came here and crashed here, and it had a crew on board, they would be very obviously biologically dissimilar to us. They'd be obviously extraterrestrial, you know. The materials the spacecraft would be made of, we would never have seen. You know, it's going to be, I've said it before, it's going to be super low mass, super exotic synthetic materials that we can't even imagine, you know. And there'll be evidence that those materials have been in interstellar space. You know, you get cosmic rays and all this sort of stuff, and that will affect the material in some way. Or there'll be some evidence of it being in space. So Mr. Borland is talking out of his backside. If an alien spacecraft crashed here, we would be able to tell that it was an extraterrestrial spacecraft without having any extraterrestrial material samples, any extraterrestrial biological samples, you know. I mean, you see, they're not going to get out and be, you know, a woman from a rock band in Scandinavia, like Billy Myers' Semjas from the Pleiades. Biologically, they're going to be very different. It's going to be easily provable they're not a terrestrial species. So it's going to be easily provable that it's not terrestrial technology. So Mr. Borland, complete waste of time. You know, just like the other witnesses, you know, Nat said on Weaponized a couple of weeks ago, he doesn't believe in aliens. All these years he's been looking into this stuff, and he said he went to Russia in the 90s. At the end of the Cold War, he went there and he's got all these files and everything else. 2 weeks ago, he said he doesn't believe in aliens. So what has he seen in all those files, in all the decades he's been looking into this? He hasn't found anything to convince him we're being visited by aliens, by extraterrestrials. Yet George Knapp is sitting there telling this story. So that's Nusatelli, the Chief Wiggins, George Knapp and Mr. Borland in the bin. Complete waste of time. There's another guy there I didn't take very much notice of, to be perfectly honest, but the little notice that I did take told me that he shouldn't be sitting there. I can't remember his name, I didn't even note it down. So that's complete and utter rubbish. Now, next we get to a video that was shown or anonymously given to Senator Burlison. Anonymously. Supposedly this video shows a Hellfire missile bouncing off a UAP. And this is why I say, you know, get UAPs out of the picture. You know, UAP, target drone, you know. We don't know what it is, it's a UAP. We don't. So there are several problems with the video. We're told it's a Hellfire missile bouncing off a UAP off the coast of Yemen. Now, because the video has no provenance, we don't know that it's a Hellfire missile. We don't know that it's off the coast of Yemen. We can see that the missile appears to impact an object and knock 3 pieces off it. But that's all we can see. There's no data on the screen saying range, distance, altitude, bearing, the sort of stuff we saw on the head-up display from the F-18 in the Tic Tac video that made the Tic Tac video so easy to debunk. If you use the numbers on the screen, it shows the Tic Tac's actually a slow-moving object at 13,800 feet. Not a fast-moving object close to the surface. So I think the video given to Mr. Burlison... Now, to be fair, Mr. Burlison said it's got no provenance, this video. All he's doing, because he's got an interest in the subject, is putting the video out there to enable the public to analyse it, to get opinions on it from the public. So there's no problem with what Mr. Burlison is saying there, you know, because there was that one in Chile, was it? with a plume of condensation or something, and the military analysed it for 2 years and they couldn't find out what it was. And Mick West and the Metabunk guys debunked it in 2 days. So putting the video out to the public so that the public can analyse it is a pretty good idea, I think. Now, what do I think it was? A few things that are very obvious. One, the target is perfectly framed in the crosshairs, perfectly framed. So they were expecting to film the impact of the missile. This would be very difficult to arrange with aliens, especially if you told them you were going to be firing a missile at them. So I think it was a weapons test. It was either a missile guidance intercept test with a dummy warhead, or maybe a kinetic missile test. So there's no explosion as such, it just knocks whatever you're interested in out of the sky. If it was a target blimp type thing, it could be, because the Air Force have apparently put 1,000 rounds through a Chinese balloon or something trying to bring it down. It didn't bring it down. It's probably compartmentalised inside, you know, like the Zeppelins were. Maybe you could just hit it with a kinetic weapon and the shockwave going through it would break it up inside, break the structure up and puncture it. The shockwave might just blow a hole in it. So maybe it was something like that. What it wasn't, of course, was an extraterrestrial spacecraft being intercepted by a missile. Yeah. So, yes, the target's perfectly framed, yes. We know they expected to film the missile impact. Yes, we do. We know that just by looking at it. There's no telemetry information because that would give the game away. No instrumentation information, I should say. You know, with the drone looking down on it, distance to target, you know, bearing, you know, altitude of target, all that sort of stuff. That appears to have been cropped off because it would have been there, I would think. It's shot in infrared. Infrared will always make things look a little strange. If we actually saw a normal video of that, we will probably be able to see exactly what it was. The video stops shortly after the impact. We see the missile hit the target, three bits come off, and then that's it. If we saw another 20 seconds of that video, we will probably see the thing changing shape as it fell into the sea. So nothing to see here, it's just nonsense. Some of the UAP fanboys, I was looking at some panel program, there's 5 of them on there. I think they went to the UAP hearing, goodness knows why. I mean, the whole thing's on YouTube. Jamie Foxx and Jaime Maussan appear to have fallen asleep. And there was a guy in the top left-hand corner saying, "Oh yeah, well that video, I think that's game-changing, you know." And you know, I thought, you've got no idea, mate. You know, you need to apply some critical thought to this. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, that's obviously anomalous." And he was saying, "Oh yeah, Nutricelli told us about this big red square that he saw and all this sort of thing." And of course, that's not what he said. He said he was told about this huge red square flying over the Air Force Base by a few other guys who wrote out their testimonies for him, and he subsequently lost them. So these guys that are supposedly researchers aren't you know, they're not paying attention. They're not listening to the detail. And they call themselves researchers. I thought that was quite disappointing. I did leave a couple of comments on their channel actually, and I had a look this morning. They're still there, so maybe they are open to criticism. A lot aren't, you know. If you point out they're not paying attention or they're giving incorrect information, comment's gone, deleted. Goes to show they know. They know that they're bending the story to fit the narrative. That's what that tells me. Delete the comment. They know the comment is valid, is making a valid point. So, yeah. I put a line through the video. It's worthless. It's just going to be a terrestrial weapons test. That's all it is. It's either a dummy warhead or a kinetic missile, kinetic warhead. You know, no explosion. Just puts a shockwave through the target. Yeah. Is there any more of this? Yeah, the target was probably a lighter than air blimp type vehicle. Yeah, they may have been trying to burst it and bring it down by putting a shockwave through it with a kinetic weapon. The three little bits that came off it might have been the stabilising fins at the back, maybe, that got knocked off, or there could have been something hanging just below it that you know, when the blimp got hit, it just separated whatever it was. They may have been things for target acquisition, maybe, because the blimp wasn't very big. They might have just been three, you know, those sort of three little aluminium plates at different angles, sort of joined together, like a ball, you know, with spikes, if you like, but plates. Yeah, so it would reflect radar better than the balloon, maybe something like that. When it got hit, they separated because they were hanging just below it in a basket or something. But anyway, put a line through it. It's not relevant. It's rubbish. Yeah, we're told the target object flew on, but of course we don't see that. As I mentioned just now, you know, as soon as it's hit, we see the three pieces come off and we see it start to fall. That's it, the video stops. We don't see the continuation of where the thing just changes shape until it falls into the ocean because it's a blimp. Put a line through it. You know, we don't see it fall into the ocean. If it had run for another 20 seconds, we would have seen that. You know, put a line through it. It's just rubbish. Okay. Yeah, the other witnesses were a complete waste of time. It's funny, Elizondo is now saying Luna should subpoena Sean Kirkpatrick. So, because Luna's saying, you know, I'll see you in the skiff, Elizondo. She's going to subpoena him, get him in there, get him to spill the beans, you know. Not that he's going to have many beans to spill, is he? He knows that, so he's trying to deflect attention. It's not me, you know. Borland said, you know, Arrow are covering all this up. You need to subpoena Sean Kirkpatrick. Well, if you watch this, Senator Luna, subpoena Lou Elizondo, subpoena Hal Puthoff, subpoena Eric Davis, subpoena Elizondo. You know, any of these people that have been making all these wild claims, subpoena David Grusch and say, okay, you've been told people have been killed to protect this secret. Who by? Subpoena them. Okay, how do you know this information? Subpoena them. Get to the bottom of it. Don't just sit back and lap up all this science fiction rubbish. Oh dear. I mean, if they subpoena Sean Kirkpatrick, all he's going to say is what he's already said. You know, that we've looked into it. There is no tangible evidence for extraterrestrials visiting this planet, crashing here, you know. All these stories are science fiction being perpetuated by a core of science fiction piffle peddlers. That's all he's going to say. It's what he's already said. And that's all Kozlowski will say. I mean, Kozlowski might flower it up a bit by saying low information zone case, but all that means is there's no evidence that they can analyse. But it might make the piffle peddlers feel a little bit better, you know. Poor piffle peddlers. All trying to screw money out of the public with this science fiction nonsense. So, yeah, I'd love to see. And remember Elizondo, I think he said he's talked to Arrow. So if he's talked to Arrow, now he doesn't need a skiff to talk to Arrow. If he's already given Arrow his story, and Arrow is still saying there's no evidence of extraterrestrials coming here, then they put a line through Elizondo, haven't they? Anything he has to say cannot be proven to be extraterrestrial. So if they subpoena Elizondo, Luna and co will find out that he's a bullshitter. He's just all of it is rubbish. Okay, so I suppose Elizondo has to prepare Luna, because he's probably getting the idea that he's not going to be able to get out of going to a skiff and giving her this information. So he's trying to prep Luna and Burlison and Mason Co. for the expectation that Arrow will say Elizondo's is bullshitting. This is all bullshit, and he's trying to prep them so that he'll go there and he'll give them all these wild stories. And really, Louis? Okay, we're going to check that out. Arrow says this is all science fiction rubbish. Luna's going to say, that's what Elizondo said you would say. You can see it's obvious, isn't it? It's ridiculous. Now, I might have written this down twice actually. This is Senator Harry Reid was mentioned. He came up with the 22 million for Bigelow to investigate his own ranch. And of course, I think Harry Reid was the guy that set up ORSAP. Elizondo mentions ATIP a couple of times. Remember, ATIP was not a real government program. It was a hobby project set up by Lou Elizondo when ORSAP was shut down because it was ridiculous. Yet they still bandy around Senator Harry Reid's name as though he's a supporter of all this and he believed all this when in fact he didn't. And as I've said previously, I'll leave a link below to an article from the Independent newspaper. It's Vlad. We know the UAP's buzzing US warships are Russian, says Senator Harry Reid. And Harry Reid would have had people like Elizondo and Stratton and all these guys, Lukatsky, reporting to him because he's the one that gave him the money. And he says it's the Russians. UAP's are the Russians. Now, I thought this was funny. I was watching this panel ET thing with these five guys. They were saying they went to the hearing in America last Tuesday. They went there. They queued up since 4:45 in the morning. They were in the queue outside. And I fell about laughing when listening to this because, you really couldn't pay me enough money to go along to this thing. It's going to be a joke. I told you last Sunday it was going to be a joke. It was a waste of time and money. What I saw was what I fully expected to see. Queue up to get in. Now, apparently, they are very upset with Danny Sheehan and Jim Garrison because they jumped the queue. They're queuing up, big queue outside Congress to get in for this UAP hearing, Been there since 4:45 in the morning, and they've been there for hours, and then Danny Sheehan and Jim Garrison turn up, and they go straight to the front of the queue and start talking to people from the New Paradigm Institute or whatever it is. And, of course, they keep talking to them until the door opens, and they go. So they've jumped the queue. They've jumped the queue. And these people are pissed off about that, and rightly so. I would have been pissed. I probably would have grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and thrown him at the back of the queue. But that's just the East London / Australian way of dealing with things. No ambiguity. But I think this demonstrates quite clearly that Danny Sheehan and Jim Garrison seriously believe they are the kings of disclosure. And everybody else in the queue, their supporters probably, people that give them money, donate money to their various, to MUFON and to their Danny Sheehan's Institute, are just dumb peons. They're just riff-raff. We're the kings of disclosure. You know. These people, nothing. We don't feel bad at all about, you know, jumping the queue. Who the hell are they? That would have been their attitude, you know. Now, yeah, as I say, that would have pissed me off too. So I'm with those guys on that. That's for sure and certain. So that should be a wake-up call, really, for anybody donating money to Danny Sheehan's New Paradigm Institute, or I think Jim Garrison's involved in MUFON, is he, or some other bloody thing? It's all these things are rubbish anyway, you know. They're kept alive by donations because they're telling everyone they're pushing for disclosure. And of course they can push and push and push and push for years and decades because there's nothing to disclose. You know, it's the grift that keeps on giving. They can, you know, they'll be pushing for disclosure long after Danny Sheehan and Steve Batshit are dead, you know, because there's nothing to disclose. It's all science fiction rubbish. But these people are milking it, you know. They like the interviews on YouTube, the podcasts, you know, the talks. Well, I'm the director of this institute, you know. How many people work for the institute, Mr. Batshit? Well, including me, one. Oh dear. So really their supporters should take a long hard look at their actions, I think. Certainly wouldn't be getting any money out of me. You know, if I was a contributor and I saw that, that would be the last contribution they would ever get from me. So yeah, that should be a wake-up call for people following these guys. Look at me, I'll tell you what, yeah, they're coming, I know, you know. And they know nothing. Okay. I mean, they can be e-begging or begging in podcasts. And they can be begging for years and decades. Even after these people are gone, you know, these institutes are probably still going to be there, and they're still going to be begging for money, you know. Apparently someone was dumb enough to give Danny Sheehan quite a lot of money not that long ago. Who would that be? Someone with zero critical thinking ability, obviously, because nothing is going to come out of this. Danny Sheehan's fully expecting all this stuff to be disclosed on the 30th of this month, you know, 2 weeks from now. You know, it's got to, it's got to go into the National Archive, all these government intelligence agencies, military agencies, all that sort of stuff. They've got to turn over any UFO, UAP related information and artifacts to the National Archive on the 30th of this month, 2 weeks from now. And Danny Sheehan is fully expecting, or he tells us he is anyway, he's fully expecting all this information to be handed over. Anything over 25 years has got to be released to the public. And they're fully expecting, you know, the Roswell incident to be revealed to be the crash of an alien spacecraft. Maybe they do believe that. But it certainly isn't. You know, if you look at the story, you look at the facts of the story, you know, it's obvious. It's very obviously not an alien spacecraft. From Mac Brazel's description of what he found, you know, tinfoil, balsa wood sticks, scotch tape, cardboard, strips of rubber. It's not an alien spacecraft, is it? And he found it on the ranch on June the 14th. So it had nothing to do with the big storm on July the 7th. It's just got embellished beyond reason. It's just ridiculous, you know. The guy that ran the Mogul Balloon Project said, you know, we knew it was, he fell about laughing when he read the newspaper. Recovers, you know, RAAF recovers flying disc. Because he knew that it was Mogul Balloon, string number 4, that had crashed on Brazel's ranch. So that's not going to be revealed to be the crash of an alien spacecraft. And when they have their disclosure day on the 20th of October, they're going to have nothing to disclose. Let's not, they had nothing to disclose last year. So, put a line through all these bloody clowns, you know, that it's just entertainment. And I think that they ease their conscience by selling it and taking money to provide entertainment. They know there's nothing. They must know there's nothing to this. So, Yeah, all of the usual suspects were at the hearing. Jamie Foxx was there. Jaime Maussan. Jeremy Corbell. It's quite entertaining to watch, but I wouldn't waste my time and money going along to watch it personally. I would have had to have dragged Sheehan and Garrison out of the way so I could be front of the queue, wouldn't I? And finally, I saw something that I felt about laughing when I saw this as well. This is the Peruvian venom alien potato, or the Peruvian venom potato alien. There's a kid in Peru recorded this meteor coming down, you know, flaming hole, which looked like he'd just put some petrol around the edge of it and lit it. You know, it's pretty weak flames, really. It just looked like lighter fluid burning. And then he's got this thing, and he's growing this thing, and it's moving around, you know. Now, I did a sentient goo video ages ago. I might leave a link to that below, just as for a laugh, you know. But it's something like that, and I thought he's probably got one of the big spiders in Peru, you know. Some poor big... I like spiders. I think they're amazing critters. I get some big spiders here. You know, big spiders. And there's one on the wall. Fortunately, they're not venomous, these ones. There's huntsman spider, big huntsman spider. You know, I could probably wouldn't be able to cover the whole thing with my hand. Now... And it's on the wall and it's looking at me, you know. And I can see, just like cat's eyes, you know, if I shine the torch at it, you can see the eyes, the fluid in the eyes, you know. Anyway, substantial spider. So you could get that, and you could, if you were really a nasty, evil person that wanted to make money out of a YouTube video, you could spray that poor little spider with something, you know, some sort of sealer or something like that to make it look black and give it some sort of strange composition on the surface, you know, and the little legs would move around, you know. And if I had to guess, I'd say that's probably what he did. I think he was inspired when he saw the movie Quatermass 2. Very old movie for the 50s. Maybe he's a fan of vintage sci-fi. You know, when you get these little meteorites come down, and they were little projectiles. In Quatermass 2, they were sort of little projectiles about this big, and they had this black goo in them, which was actually an alien. It was an alien life form of some kind, and it was trying to take over the planet. You know, they were, and I think he was inspired by that. The little meteorite with the black thing coming out of it. I think it's very, very, very similar to the movie Quatermass 2. Do I think it's an alien? What do you reckon? I'm sure that this kid, I can't remember his name yet, I'm sure he's eager to send samples of his ET life form to some reputable universities for analysis and peer review. And I look forward to seeing the results of that. All right, well, that's about it, I think. This subject seems to get weaker and weaker every week, doesn't it? I saw Steve Bassett talking a load of rubbish as usual, and if you get to see this, Mr. Bassett, you're not going to see disclosure before you drop off the perch, mate. You're wasting your time. As we would say in the UK, you're pissing into the wind, mate. With that, I'll say, as usual, if you've struggled through the video all the way to this point, many thanks for watching, and maybe I'll catch you again.